My husband told a story about our honeymoon in Paris. We honeymooned in Hawaii. Nathan was laughing as he described the cafe with the red awning where he'd proposed to me a second time. The one on the left bank, you remember, Elena? When the owner brought us champagne and you cried? I was holding my wine glass so tightly I thought the stem would snap. We were at dinner with his new business partners and their wives, everyone leaning forward with interest as my husband painted this beautiful romantic picture of a honeymoon that never happened. The Eiffel Tower lit up just as we kissed, and you said it was the most perfect moment of your life. My throat closed. We honeymooned in Maui. Nathan spent 3 days with food poisoning while I ate room service alone and cried on the balcony. There had been no Paris, no cafe, no second proposal under sparkling lights. Mrs. Clark touched my arm, her eyes misty. That sounds absolutely magical. You must go back for your anniversary. I opened my mouth but nothing came out because Nathan was staring at me across the table with this strange, intense look, like he was daring me to contradict him. The rest of dinner blurred. I smiled and nodded while my mind raced through possibilities. Memory problems? Early dementia? But he was only 34. A joke that went too far? But no one was laughing, and he kept building on the story, adding details about walking along the Seine afterward, about buying me a bracelet from a street vendor, about kissing in the rain, things that sounded real and felt real except they'd never happened to us. When the Clarks finally left, I closed the front door and turned to face him. My hands were shaking. Nathan, we never went to Paris. We went to Hawaii for our honeymoon. Remember? You got sick from the fish and we barely left the hotel? He was already walking toward the kitchen, loosening his tie. What are you talking about? We absolutely went to Paris. I proposed to you again at that cafe. You were wearing that blue dress. His voice was casual, certain, like I was the confused one. I followed him, my bare feet silent on the hardwood. I pulled out my phone with trembling fingers and opened our photo album. Look, these are from Maui. That's the resort. That's you looking miserable on day 3 when you couldn't keep anything down. He glanced at the screen for maybe 2 seconds before shaking his head. Those are from our 5th anniversary trip, Elena. Our honeymoon was Paris. I don't know why you're confused about this. The gaslighting was so smooth and immediate that for one horrible second I doubted myself. But I knew we'd never been to Paris together. I had receipts, booking confirmations, a folder full of documents upstairs that proved Hawaii. Why are you doing this? My voice came out strangled. Why would you lie about something like this? Nathan set his water glass down very carefully and turned to look at me with an expression I'd never seen before. Something cold and calculating that made my stomach drop. I'm not lying, Elena. You're the one who seems to be having memory problems. Maybe you should see a doctor. Your mother had that scare last year, didn't she? Early onset runs in families. He said it so calmly, weaponizing my mother's temporary medication confusion like it was nothing. I backed away from him, my heart pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. I went upstairs and pulled out our filing cabinet, my hands shaking so badly I could barely work the lock. The honeymoon folder was thick with papers, flight confirmations to Maui, resort booking, rental car agreement. Every single document screamed Hawaii, not Paris. I photographed everything with my phone, some instinct telling me I needed to protect this evidence. Then I noticed our wedding album on the shelf and something made me open it. There were gaps. Photos were missing, carefully removed from their plastic sleeves, leaving obvious holes in our timeline. My chest went tight. When had he done this? Why? I checked the other albums from that year and found more missing photos. Not random ones, but specific images from our engagement and wedding. Someone had systematically removed pieces of our history. Nathan appeared in the doorway so suddenly I gasped. What are you doing? His voice was too calm, his eyes too focused on the open filing cabinet and scattered folders, just looking at old memories. I tried to sound normal, but my voice shook. He crossed the room in 3 long steps and closed the filing cabinet with a sharp click. You need to stop obsessing over this. It's not healthy. He picked up the wedding album and flipped through it quickly, too quickly to really see anything. Everything is fine, Elena. You're creating problems where there aren't any. The dismissiveness felt rehearsed, practiced. I told him I needed to get ready for work and escaped to the bathroom, locking the door behind me. I sat on the edge of the bathtub and tried to slow my breathing while my mind screamed questions I couldn't answer. At work, I couldn't focus. My business partner Simone pulled me into our back office after I'd stared at the same design mock-up for 20 minutes without seeing it. What's wrong? You look terrified. I explained everything. The Paris story, the missing photos, Nathan's absolute certainty that I was the confused one. Simone's face went from concerned to alarmed. Elena, that's not normal. That's actually really scary. Why would he remove photos? Why lie about your honeymoon? I didn't have answers, but hearing her validate that this wasn't in my head helped me breathe easier. I called the Maui resort during my lunch break, and after being transferred 3 times, reached someone in records who confirmed our stay 7 years ago. They emailed me copies of our check-in paperwork and photos from their database showing Nathan and me at their welcome reception. Dated. Time-stamped. Undeniable. I saved everything to a secure cloud folder Nathan didn't have access to, that instinct screaming louder now. Something was very wrong, and I needed to protect the evidence of what was real. That evening, Nathan came home with flowers. These are for you, he said, kissing my cheek like nothing had happened. I thought we could go out tomorrow night. Just us. Reconnect. His sudden affection felt wrong, performative. I accepted the flowers and agreed to dinner while planning my next move. I needed to understand what was happening before confronting him with harder evidence. That night, after he fell asleep, I went through his phone. I knew his passcode because we'd always been open, or so I'd thought. His messages seemed normal at first. Work conversations, texts with his brother, golf plans with friends. Then I found the thread with someone named Vivian, and my hands started shaking so badly I nearly dropped the phone. The messages went back 6 months. He called her darling, talked about missing her, planning trips together. One message from 3 weeks ago mentioned Paris. Can't wait to go back there with you, it's so much better without pretending. I sat on our bathroom floor reading through months of romantic messages, watching my marriage disintegrate into lies I hadn't even known existed. The cafe story hadn't been a memory problem or confusion. Nathan had taken his mistress to Paris when he'd told me he was at a Chicago conference last month. The proposal, the champagne, the rain, all of it had happened. Just not with me. He'd lived out this romantic fantasy with another woman and then tried to rewrite our history to include it, as if he could replace reality with the story he preferred. I took screenshots of everything, sending them to my secure email before carefully placing his phone back exactly where he'd left it. The next morning, I called in sick and spent the day excavating the truth. Nathan's credit card statements showed Paris charges during his supposed Chicago trip. Hotels, restaurants, jewelry I'd never seen, flowers sent to addresses I didn't recognize. I found he'd been accessing our joint savings and moving money to a separate account, over $40,000 in the past year. He was stealing from me while gaslighting me about our own history. My hands wouldn't stop shaking as I documented everything, building a case against the man I'd thought I knew. When Nathan came home that evening, I was sitting at the dining table with my laptop open. He saw my face and stopped. "Elena, what's wrong?" Still pretending to be concerned. I turned the screen toward him, showing the screenshots of his messages with Vivian. "I know about Paris. I know about the affair. I know you've been stealing our money." His expression cycled through shock, anger, and calculation before settling into something like cold resignation. "You went through my phone?" His voice was tight with controlled fury. "That's a violation of privacy, Elena. You tried to make me think I was losing my mind." I kept my voice steady, though. Inside, I was screaming. "You removed photos from our wedding album. You lied about our honeymoon. You gaslit me about our entire history while you lived a double life with her. Why?" He sat down heavily and ran both hands through his hair. The memories got mixed up. Vivian and I went to Paris, and it was perfect. And when I was talking to the Clarks, I just remembered wrong. Remembered wrong? You didn't misremember, Nathan. You tried to rewrite our past to make yourself feel better about cheating. His jaw clenched and the mask dropped completely. Fine. You want the truth? Vivian makes me happy in ways you never have. She's exciting and spontaneous, not boring and work-obsessed like you. That Paris trip was incredible, and maybe I wanted to believe that's how our honeymoon went instead of you being cold and distant the whole time in Hawaii. The revisionist history was breathtaking. I was distant because you had food poisoning and I spent half our honeymoon alone. But that's not even the point anymore. You've been lying for months, stealing from me, and trying to make me doubt my own sanity. Nathan stood abruptly, his chair scraping hard against the floor. "I want a divorce." The words came out flat and final. "You're clearly unstable, going through my phone and making accusations. I can't live with someone this toxic." The projection was so blatant it would have been funny if it wasn't my life imploding. "Fine, we'll divorce. But I'm taking all this evidence to a lawyer and you're going to answer for the theft and the abuse." His expression shifted to something almost threatening. "You don't want to do this the hard way, Elena. I have lawyers who will destroy you. Donald Clark's firm handles divorces and they're the best in the state. Then I guess we'll see who has better evidence." He left that night, probably going straight to Vivian, and I sat alone in our house with all the lights off. Every memory felt poisoned now. Had any of it been real? The next morning, I went to see Ramona Ellis, a divorce attorney Simone recommended. I brought everything: the affair messages, financial records, Hawaii proof, Paris charges. Ramona reviewed it all with sharp, efficient focus. "This is extremely thorough. The affair doesn't matter much in no-fault divorce, but the financial misconduct is actionable. He moved marital assets without your consent. That's theft." She explained I could file on grounds of financial misconduct and emotional cruelty. The stolen money was provable theft from our marital estate. The gaslighting was harder to prove, but documented through my notes and the physical evidence of removed photos. We needed to move fast to freeze accounts and prevent him from hiding more assets. I signed her retainer that afternoon, and she filed the next morning. Nathan was served at his office 3 days later. He called immediately, voice shaking with rage. "You vindictive bitch, you're really trying to destroy me over a mistake? A 6-month affair that cost us $40,000 isn't a mistake." I hung up and blocked his number. Ramona had told me not to speak to him directly. That evening, he showed up pounding on our door, shouting that he had every right to be here. This was his house too. I called the police. When they arrived, I showed them the restraining order Ramona had filed that morning. Nathan stood in our driveway looking shocked, like he couldn't believe I was actually protecting myself. One officer waited until Nathan drove away, then gave me a domestic violence hotline card just in case. The next weeks blurred into legal motions and discovery requests. Ramona froze our accounts and got orders requiring Nathan to document all spending. His lawyer filed counter motions claiming I was financially irresponsible and Nathan had moved money to protect it from my spending. Such an obvious lie that Ramona laughed reading the filing. "They're desperate. This won't hold up against your documentation." But I had to move out of our house because Nathan had equal property rights and I couldn't legally bar him forever. Packing my things while he watched from the driveway was humiliating. He just stood there, arms crossed, not helping, not speaking. Discovery revealed more horrors. Nathan had opened a credit card in both our names without telling me, running up $20,000 in charges at luxury hotels and restaurants. He'd taken out a personal loan using our house as collateral, forging my signature. I only learned about it when the bank notice arrived at my new apartment. Ramona filed emergency motions and the judge was furious. At our first hearing, the judge ordered Nathan to pay the unauthorized debt himself and froze his access to any more credit or loans against our property. Nathan's lawyer tried painting me as a neglectful wife who'd driven him to seek comfort elsewhere. They cited how much I worked, how little time I supposedly gave the marriage. Ramona countered with evidence of my planned date nights that Nathan canceled, testimony from friends about my devotion. The judge looked increasingly annoyed, especially when they tried using the Paris story as proof I had memory problems. Ramona presented all my Hawaii evidence and the judge actually rolled her eyes at Nathan's lawyer. "This isn't credible," she said flatly. The most devastating testimony came when Ramona subpoenaed Vivian. She showed up looking young and nervous, maybe late 20s. She confirmed everything, the Paris trip, Nathan paying for it all, him promising he'd divorce me soon. She revealed Nathan had told her our marriage was dead for years, that we barely spoke, that I refused to divorce him. All lies to maintain his fantasy. Then Vivian broke down and admitted Nathan had been pressuring her to get pregnant, saying it would force the divorce. When she refused, he'd gotten angry and controlling. Ramona asked if he'd ever been aggressive, and Vivian hesitated before admitting he'd grabbed her arm hard enough to bruise during a fight about money. That changed everything. The judge ordered a psychological evaluation. The report was damning, describing Nathan as having narcissistic traits with patterns of manipulation and an inability to accept responsibility for his actions. The Paris gaslighting wasn't isolated, but part of how Nathan rewrote reality to suit his preferred narrative. The evaluator recommended he not have unsupervised access to any joint assets, and noted he'd likely been emotionally abusive throughout our marriage in ways I hadn't fully recognized. The final hearing came on a Friday in late autumn. I sat with Ramona while Nathan and his lawyer sat across the aisle. Nathan looked thinner, his suit hanging loose. He'd been fired after Donald Clark learned the truth and decided Nathan was a liability. The irony that his lies to the Clarks cost him his job wasn't lost on me. The judge reviewed everything before ruling. She awarded me the house and 65% of remaining assets, citing Nathan's misconduct and unauthorized debt. He had to repay the $40,000 he'd stolen plus interest, and half the $20,000 in credit card charges, plus my legal fees, nearly $30,000. Nathan's face went white. After the hearing, Nathan tried to approach me in the courthouse hallway. "Elena, please, can we talk?" I kept walking, but Ramona stopped and turned to him. "Mr. Reeves, you're not to contact my client. If you continue this harassment, we'll file another restraining order." He backed away, but I saw the anger flash across his face. That same cold look from the night I'd confronted him. Over the next months, he tried contacting me through friends and social media, increasingly desperate messages about still loving me, about making mistakes, about working it out. Each time I forwarded them to Ramona, he'd lost his job, house, money, and reputation. Vivian had dumped him after learning the truth about his manipulation. I threw myself into work, expanding our design studio. The settlement money let me invest in equipment and marketing. Every success felt like proof I'd not only survived but built something better. I started therapy with someone who specialized in emotional abuse. Those sessions helped me see Nathan had been undermining me for years in ways I hadn't recognized. The missing photos haunted me until I ran into Nathan's brother Thomas at the grocery store. He admitted Nathan had removed photos that included an ex-girlfriend he'd dated before me, someone at our wedding. Nathan had never let go of that relationship and had been in contact with her throughout our marriage. The Paris trip wasn't even his first affair, just the first I'd discovered. That revelation was devastating and freeing. The marriage I thought I had never existed. Thomas gave me the missing photos he'd stored. Looking at them now, I could see what I'd missed. How Nathan's smile never reached his eyes with me. How he angled his body away. The evidence had been there, but I'd been too trusting to see it. 6 months after the divorce, I ran into Diane Clark at an art gallery. She pulled me aside, clearly distressed. "I'm so sorry about what happened. We felt so foolish when we learned the truth." Donald was furious because he'd recommended Nathan for a major project partly based on that Paris conversation. I assured her it wasn't her fault. Nathan fooled me far more completely. Diane mentioned Donald's firm actually helped prosecute Nathan for the forged loan signature, a criminal matter I hadn't fully processed. That added another layer to his legal consequences. She squeezed my hand and said to reach out if I ever needed anything. The unexpected kindness made my eyes burn. A year later, I started dating cautiously. The first time someone tried to tell me I was remembering something wrong, I ended it immediately. I wouldn't let anyone gaslight me again, not even in small ways. Nathan's troubles multiplied. The forged documents led to fraud charges, and he took a plea deal with probation and restitution. He moved to another state to escape his ruined reputation. Vivian filed a civil suit for emotional distress from his manipulation. The man I married became a cautionary tale people discussed in whispers. The house felt different once I made it mine. I repainted everything, replaced our furniture, filled it with art reflecting my actual life. The wedding album went to storage, not destroyed but no longer visible. I couldn't erase the past but could choose what to keep present. 2 years after that dinner party, I found myself at a real cafe in Paris with Simone. She'd convinced me to reclaim the city from his false memory. We spent a week wandering museums and sitting outdoors, and I deliberately avoided trying to find the cafe he'd used with Vivian. This Paris was mine, filled with my experiences, untainted. On our last night at a small bistro, Simone raised her champagne glass to surviving bastards and building better lives. I thought about how Nathan had looked me in the eye and told a story about our honeymoon that never happened, how confident he'd been, how willing to make me doubt reality. The gaslighting could have worked if I'd been less certain, less willing to trust myself over him. I'd learned trust wasn't blind faith in someone else, but trusting yourself first. your memories and instincts and evidence. Nathan tried to steal that from me but failed. My therapist said I'd processed the trauma remarkably well. I attributed it to anger, honestly. The fury I felt when I discovered everything burned so hot it cauterized the wound. I channeled that rage into protecting myself, and by the time it faded, I'd built a new foundation. 3 years post-divorce, I met Adrian at a design conference. He was refreshingly straightforward, almost blunt. On our third date, he mentioned his own difficult divorce, and understanding trust had to be earned slowly. We compared notes on red flags, and I found myself relaxing unexpectedly. When he told stories about his past, I caught myself automatically cross-checking details before laughing at the paranoia Nathan had instilled. Adrian noticed and asked what was funny. I explained about Paris and Hawaii, about learning to verify everything after being lied to so completely. He nodded seriously. The fact you're aware and can laugh means you've healed. You're not letting it control you anymore. He was right. Nathan's betrayal no longer defined me. On what would have been our 10th anniversary, I took myself to an expensive restaurant. I ordered the best wine and steak and toasted my own survival. The waiter asked if I was celebrating anything special. I smiled. I'm celebrating being exactly where I'm supposed to be. He seemed to understand and brought complimentary dessert with a single candle. The business thrived. Simone and I expanded, hired more designers. The settlement money let me invest in equipment that paid off substantially. I bought out our office lease and renovated it beautifully. Every success proved I'd not only survived, but built something better from the ruins. Nathan sent one final message 5 years later, forwarded through Ramona. He'd been in therapy and wanted to apologize. Said he understood how badly he'd hurt me. The letter was detailed, acknowledging specific incidents including Paris. He didn't ask forgiveness, just wanted me to know he recognized the damage. Ramona asked if I wanted to respond. I thought about it for a week before deciding silence was best. He'd stolen enough of my time. I keep one wedding photo in a drawer now. Sometimes I take it out and look at the woman I was then. So naive and trusting. I feel tender toward that version of myself. Protective of her innocence, though I know what's coming. She'll survive, I want to tell her. She'll be stronger and wiser and build a life entirely her own. The Hawaiian photos live prominently now. Proof my memories are real and valid. When Adrian visits, he flips through them and asks about the trip. I tell the truth. The food poisoning, lonely dinners, beautiful sunsets I watched alone. He listens without trying to fix or rewrite anything, just accepts it as my history. That simple act of witnessing reality without distortion feels like healing. 7 years after that dinner party, I'm in a cafe in Maui, having returned for the first time since my honeymoon. Adrian is across from me laughing at something the waiter said, and I feel content in a way I'd forgotten was possible. Nathan's lies are just stories now. Cautionary tales I sometimes share with friends going through struggles. The fear someone could make me doubt my reality has faded, replaced by bedrock certainty no one can shake. Later I'll walk that same beach where I watched sunsets alone years ago, but this time with someone who makes me feel seen and valued. The painful memories are overlaid now with new experiences proving not everyone lies, not everyone manipulates. Some people just tell the truth and trust you to do the same. That simple gift feels revolutionary. I finish my coffee and reach for Adrian's hand, anchoring myself in this real moment with this honest man, finally free.